Good afternoon, my name is Loretta Snakeskin. I'm from Thunderchild First Nations. Spent a lot of time at the Big River First Nations. Here to show you guys how to make bannock. So I'll be making some oven bannock, and I will also share a little bit of stories about why I enjoy making bannock. My dad actually taught me how to make bannock when I was a kid. And one of the first experiences I had making bannock was that my dad took all of my dough and tossed it in the garbage, which is kind of shocking to me, but I was a kid and that's kind of how you learn, I guess. What happened was that with the bannock, sometimes if you put too much flour or if you knead it too much, then it's pretty much you have to start over because you can't really knead that out and it's not going to turn out too well. And with bannock, sometimes it can be, like the best bannock, and sometimes you'll get some that are not so great, but it's just all in the matter of how you have the dough a lot of times. Right, so I'm going to put 3 cups of flour, 3 tablespoons of baking powder, tablespoons, 1 teaspoon, big size difference with tablespoon and a teaspoon, in case you're doing this for the first time. And so we're going to add when you add water, you want to add warm water, like lukewarm water. Somehow it helps the baking somehow. You'll also want to add some salt, some dry ingredients, just a little pinch, maybe like that much, not too much. You don't want your bannock to sticky. Mix our dry ingredients around so that they're all mixed together with the baking powder and the salt and everything. So that's what we're gonna do. You mix it, and then you add a little hole in there, and then you add the warm water, which I'm going to go grab. So we're gonna add 1.5 cup of water, so 1 cup and then half. And then we're gonna add. So we're gonna need a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. So not too much, just about 1/4 cup. And so we'll add the oil to the water, and then I'll show you how we mix it around. Okay, so now we're mixing. We're just taking a little bit of flour off the sides. We're not mixing it all together yet, just so we can get a nice dough. So what I like to do is like to stir in the middle a little bit, so we get a little bit of flour in there. And so we just take a little bit off the sides. So it's kind of like a roux, as they call it, right? So you just kind of mix it all in there. And that's just kind of how I've seen it done growing up. I've never really seen anybody mix it all together at one time. So that's kind of why I just kind of turn the bowl and then mix it by hand. Okay. So, and that's almost done, and I'll show you how I put the dough together. And then we'll get it ready for the oven. And if there's a little bit of flour at the bottom, that's fine, but you kind of start to see that it's starting to form some dough. And if there's flour in the bottom, that's completely fine. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take our dough here, and we're going to just kind of put it together into kind of like a ball. And so if it's too sticky, you just grab a little bit of flour and just put it there like this, and then just grab a little bit of flour and just kind of put it together like this, because it's kind of like when you're making bread and your hands get too sticky, the flour kind of helps with that. But we don't want to knead it too much though. You want it a little bit sticky so that you can see this is how it looks now. And it's pretty much almost done. And then if there's flour in there, you just kind of just use it. So there's like nothing in there now. So this is my dough.
Looks like a very soft dough.
Yeah. So we're always try to be very gentle with it because you don't want it hard, right? Because it's not going to turn out. And then this side, I usually just kind of that's the side the rough side. I kind of mix that in a little bit like that. And so now it looks like this. And I could use a little more flour because just kind of see, and it's still kind of soft, and it'll turn out really good. And then from there, I just kind of knead it out a little bit. I used to see my grandma when I was a child, my mom's mom. She used to knead her bannock like this, and I remember my very early memories of her making bannock that way. And just kind of all over. And then that's almost done. Just flatten it out as much as you can, because it will rise a little bit. And so the final thing you want to do with this fork is you want to poke it. I don't know if a lot of people do that, but it kind of allows the air through. And I've always just seen my family do that, so that's what I do.
Do you oil the pan at all?
No, we don't oil the pan. Usually we don't, but if we feel that the pan is going to be thick, it's not a good pan, then what you could do is just add a little bit of flour to it, and the flour will keep it from sticking to the pan. But usually we don't oil the pan. And then this is ready for the oven. And just like that.
So about how long does it take to bake?
You could, if you preheat your oven, it will bake about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, depending on how brown you want your bannock. And that's how you make the bannock. It's ready for the oven. So I'm going to make some fried bannock, and we've got 3 cups of flour in here, and I like to mix my dry ingredients first. So I'm going to put some baking powder, and we always put use tablespoons. This is a teaspoon, and this is a tablespoon. See the size difference? So with fried bannock, you want to use about three tablespoons of baking powder. Baking powder, not baking soda. You don't want to put baking soda in your bannock. So there's 3 in there. And so salt, we'll put a tablespoon of salt in this one.
That's a teaspoon.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Teaspoon, not tablespoon. That's too much salt. Teaspoon. That is a lot of salt. A teaspoon of salt is a lot. Tablespoon, teaspoon. Okay, so I mixed my dry ingredients in there. So what I do is I mix the dry ingredients by hand so that we get an even distribution of the dry ingredients in here. So that's what we're doing right now. And mix it all up really nice. I usually do it by hand. Okay. So now I mixed it all by hand. So I'm gonna make a little hole in the middle for the liquid. And so I'm going to add my lukewarm water to my mixture and put it in the middle. Like that. And then I got my fork and I just kind of mix it around inside. This is just a simple way. I don't know how other people, what they add to theirs. I've heard people add eggs to their bannock, but we don't do that. We just simple flour, salt, baking powder, and warm water. It's quite simple. You always want to preheat your oil so that it's nice and hot when you put your bannock in. So just mixing it around in there. And I just like
So you don't put any oil in the fried pan?
no, because it's already going to be fried in oil. That's too much oil. Yeah. And that's the difference between oven bannock and fried bannock. The fried bannock is that you just fry it, and the oven bannock goes in the oven. And we usually don't add any oil or anything to the fried bannock. I mean, I'm not saying you can't, but we usually. Now I turn the bowl while I make this. I think it's coming together quite nicely, as you can see. And I just mix it around like that.
So it's a little thinner than what the...
Yeah, only because there's no oil in there. Add the flour to the mixture because it's a little bit sticky. And we don't want it too sticky because then your hands will get all sticky and you don't want that. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of just flouring it a little bit. So I got it all now. It needs a little bit of, this one is really like soft and really sticky. So what I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit of flour to the mixture. And just kind of kneading it a little bit more than the oven Bannock. It's sticky. And that happens sometimes. And that's why we use warm water, because it seems to work better with the dough than if you were to use cold water. And sometimes it happens where you need to knead it a little more.
So about how many pieces do you cut that up into?
This will probably cut into, believe it or not, probably maybe like 10, 15 pieces, depending on the size of the Bannock you want.
Oh, wow.
If you're using it for soup, maybe smaller pieces, but if you're doing it for like Bannock or Indian tacos, then you might want to double the recipe because you'll have bigger pieces, right? And so, as you can see, I kind of gently, I floured it and I was kind of gentle with it, right? So you can see that it's ready to be cut and ready to be cut up into sizes. And I just like to flatten it out. Flatten it out a little bit. And then flour. When it's sticky, you can add a little bit of flour. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get a knife and we're going to cut this up. And it's ready to be cut. So if you're finding that the dough is sticky, just add a little bit of flour to it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut. So we're going to gently cut our pieces. And with the oven Bannock, I just like to be sure there's no flour on it. And I like to cut tiny little opening there for it to fry through. And then we're going to get our pieces ready for the frying pan. And just cut a little opening there. Because when you're frying it, the air from the oil needs to go through the middle. That's why we always do that. And these are pretty big pieces, I find. But you can make them smaller too, because they will rise quite a bit. If I find that some of these pieces are too flimsy, they're too thin, then I'll just quickly just redo them a little bit, make them a little bit thicker. Because I'll come across a few pieces that are kind of thin, like a little too thin. So what I'll do is I'll just go like this, and I'll just because that'll happen. Okay. So the 3 skinny pieces, I made 1 big piece out of it, which is, and then just take that flour after. There's a lot of flour on these. So we're going to drop it in there, and we're going to see, and it's ready, because if you drop a little piece of dough in there and the oil is, and it's like looks like it's cooking and it's coming up, then you know your oil is ready, just the way it looks in there. So if you missed it, you see it again. All the little bubbles coming out of it, and it's close to the top, it's ready. Okay, so we're going to put this one in. We're going to put it in like this, so you don't have oil splashing everywhere. You want to be safe. So it's submerged now, and I'll go get some more. And the Bannock doesn't take very long to cook. We're just going to drop it in there gently.
So do you flip the Bannock?
Yeah, they'll tell you when to flip it, and you'll be able to see when it's time to flip. But we don't flip it too many times. You'll know when it's done. It doesn't take very long. So we just wait for it to brown on one side, and I'll flip it over. And I'm just going to grab a plate, put the Bannock in it. We have our pan over here, and we like to use paper towel or paper here just to pick up some of the grease from the bannock because it will be a little bit greasy. So you want to make sure that you have a little bit of oil in there. So this one I say is ready. It could be a little bit browner, but I think it looks pretty good. So that'll go in there.